Welcome to logisticsexplained.com. Our guest today is Kathy Jones from Delivery Solutions, Delsol Limited. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kathy.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Tell us a bit about your business and what you do.
Okay, so Delivery Solutions, Delsol, as we're known, is a independently owned courier business based in North Wales. So we're part of the APC network. We're also part of the TPN network, part of Haschem. We also do some storage, haulage. We've got local eco plan. We do same days. And we also have another two businesses within the group, which are HFO which is a haulage business that are in pallet track, and Delsol International, which are a freight forwarding business.
So it's a big, complex business, lots of different aspects of it.
Yeah, we like to be the sort of one-stop shop.
Great. I also asked this question, what brought you into the lovely logistics sector?
I'll be perfectly honest, it was the hours and the location of the job. I started 13 years ago, part-time in customer service. It was around school hours, Monday to Friday, so I thought it was perfect for my lifestyle. And I was very lucky to have the opportunity to be trained firstly in HR. I then went on to head up the senior leadership team, did a strategic leadership and management course, and then this is now my third year as group CEO.
Oh, well done. And most people, in these conversations, and including myself, we sort of fell into the industry, but once you get into it, you love it, and it also drives you mad, but you love it. I always describe it as organised chaos, because every day, as you say, totally different, and you don't know what's coming your way, and you either like that or you keep away from it, one of the two. But once it gets under your skin, it's great, So tell us about your business and how you see, the business and the sectors you're in changing over the next few years, please.
We're quite excited about the parcel business at the moment. So it was bought out back in July. APC is the network by William Stobart. So there's a lot of investment going into the network at the moment. There's a lot of new systems coming in, new people, and it's really driving the business forward. Whenever I'm asked about the parcel business by friends and family, they've never heard of APC. It's due to the fact that it's independently owned depot. So, I suppose collectively as a whole, we would be like your DPDs in size. But when you're independently owned, you have a bit more control over the way you do things as well. And we have missed a trick, I think, by selling ourselves as a courier business that you actually get customer service in. So you can walk into our depots and pick up your parcel. There are staff manned at the desks. There are humans to answer the phone. They can actually phone the driver and have a conversation. Whilst I appreciate that there are metrics and KPIs that are required in this line of business, it's not that heavily driven. So the chances of a driver being able to go back and reattempt to deliver a parcel because you've literally just missed them, like that is part of the APC network, which isn't anything that you get anywhere else. There's been a change in the TPN network as well recently under new leadership. So again, it's quite exciting to see how people are wanting to drive the business forward, looking at sustainability as well, which is a big thing at the moment. Obviously, we run many vehicles, our carbon footprint does have a massive impact. So we're looking at making the routes more sustainable and economical, different types of fuel that are coming in, new vehicles, advanced technologies, AI, like there's just so much at the moment that is driving the industry forward. It is a very competitive nature, and everybody does want something for nothing. And I feel like the last mile delivery people that we are don't always get the credit that we deserve.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very dynamic industry, and as consumers, we take it. I think we take it for granted. I don't mean we're not respectful. It's just that it's so efficient, so effective. Whether it be air freight, sea freight, express courier same day. It all works really, really well, and all you guys and girls do a fantastic job. And part of reason logistics explained is to celebrate that and to share how everyone does it, and everyone does the same thing differently. In different sectors and different specialisms. So, what do you see as the biggest opportunities and threats, for the sector over the next few years?
We're just starting to embrace our AI journey, and I do think that there is a lot taking some of the manual, mundane tasks away that will free up people to actually keep on doing what our customers want, which is that human interaction. You can only automate so much. We don't want to get rid of people because they're at the heart of the operation and what we do, but we would like our people to have more time to be able to speak with customers. You don't want to be having to put the phone down because it's ringing constantly. You want to have that relationship, because that's the most important thing in transport. Being able to explain to your customer if something goes wrong, why it has. So by automating some of the more mundane things, I think that's going to be massive in freeing up people's time. Challenges, again, I think it's the rise in living wage and the fact that everybody would move for 5p less a parcel. It's really in a price war, and that's quite damaging, because the only person that wins in that is the customer. We're providing service, and there's a cost to that service, and that cost should be maintained throughout.
No, okay, no, appreciate that. It's certainly a competitive sector, and the economy is pretty flat, to be polite, at the moment. So that sadly drives people towards costings, doesn't it? Sometimes, sadly. And you sort of mentioned about AI, and how do you see the continual changes in technology affecting both your business and the sector more generally?
Well, when we spoke to a guy last week about the driverless vehicles came up about 3 times. I really can't get my head around that. For A to B for taxis, maybe, but when you've got pallets and parcels on, how I don't really see how that would work. I think it's more about the efficiencies, route planning, being more reactive to things that happen out in the field, rather than some of the more experienced drivers kind of do things the way that they've done them because they know the route and they know the area. But actually, if you've got the technology that says, even the sat nav, for instance, that road's closed, so go this way, or there's more traffic there and congestion. So just really having the data quicker to make better informed decisions.
Yeah, so it might be part of the solution, but maybe not completely change things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. No, I thought so. And what are people in the sector maybe not publicly talking about that maybe they should be?
I think it is that sort of cutthroat industry that actually, if we're all struggling, why do you want to go in and undercut someone and do it for even less if it's not worth it? I think if we were all honest and said we can't do that for that price because it doesn't make us any money, and nobody did it for that price, then the customer would understand what the true value of that service was.
Yeah, you're right. And if you look back to COVID, prices went up, steeply at that time, didn't they? And the
Yeah.
expectation was lowered because if you remember home deliveries, drivers didn't need to get a signature; they just dropped it
Yeah.
off. Because
Yeah.
of So it's funny, but in a super competitive market, it can be that race to the bottom. But yeah, like you say, it's super competitive. And you mentioned it earlier. How does the green transition impact your sector? And do people want it? And do you think there's a potential for people to pay for it as well?
People want it for their tenders and their ESG, but they don't want to pay for it, is what I've found. We've got 3 electric vans in our parcel fleet at the moment, and they're on local routes, and that works from our D-side depot. But when you actually look at our delivery area across North Wales, there isn't the infrastructure for chargers for us to be able to run that type of fleet. So I think that in certain aspects we might be a disadvantage of that, because some of our couriers in the inner cities could probably run a greener fleet cheaper. So I do think that it's different depending on your delivery area and the demographic. But yeah, people don't want to pay for it. They say that they want sustainability, they say that they want to reduce the carbon footprint, but it seems to me that it is more of a box ticking exercise when it comes down to it. For example, we had a quote for a customer on some a more sustainable pallet wrap, and it for over £6 a roll. I think it was £26 a roll. No.
Yeah.
So what do you want us to do then?
And do you think ultimately legislation by a government may help drive what everyone wants to do? Because I would say, as consumers, we would all ideally like, when we have a shipment, to have maybe a normal price and then a green price, maybe say 10% more or something that you can live with. Yeah. But obviously we need to make sure that went back to the right place. So do you think legislation may help, the green transition?
I think so. But I also think it's got to be wider spread, and I think there need to be more people that actually understand what it is that you're trying to achieve by it. So I think education on it as well. I found it difficult in trying to convince my dad, for instance, when I went on a sustainability course, of why I was looking at these different things, because when we had an interesting viewpoint on that, and I don't feel that everybody is on the same page. So yes, perhaps if there was legislation in place, it's a case of, well, it's not whether you want to or not, you have to, and that does change things.
Yeah, that might drive change. Yeah. And during your career in this sector, what has surprised you? What developments have surprised you most in the sector?
I'm delighted to see more women now. So when I first started going out to the sort of regional meetings with the networks, I felt very I felt isolated myself. I wasn't very confident. I was young and I was female. And when you walk into a room with a lot of men that all know each other, it's hard to sort of go in and break into those circles.
Yes.
But I did. I put my big girl pants on and I embraced it. And the more meetings that we go to now, it's really encouraging to see more and more women in leadership roles within logistics. And I think that's been definitely a massive shift that I've seen in the past sort of 5 or 6 years.
Good. Yeah, I think it's very good. Yeah, because we all have different strengths and weaknesses. Men, women, older, younger. And the more dynamic, a workforce we have, the world's probably a better place. And with different perspectives and different views, because we all have different views depending on our age bands as well. Like you mentioned, yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good. And the last question I sort of asked everyone, Kathy, is said, if you could speak to the government, what would you ask them to do to help your business grow and flourish?
I would ask them to stop hiking up the living wage and stop hiking up the NI contributions, and actually allow us to be able to pay our staff in the way that we want to. I think the gap between sort of unskilled and skilled at the moment is eroding so much, because it's unachievable to put the whole workforce's wages up by the percentage that the minimum living wage is going up by, and that does take effect. I mean, only last year with the change in the NI contributions, unfortunately, we lost staff to be able to mitigate the increase in that, and that's, to me, detrimental to what they were trying to achieve anyway, because unemployment is not something that is good for the people or the economy. So if that was stopped, I think that would be far better. And also to recognise transport. I was at a CBI dinner last night, and the First Minister of Wales was talking, and she went on about all the different grants and initiatives for all these new things coming in: digital transformation, AI, advanced manufacturing, and transport isn't recognised at all. And I sort of sat to the person next to me. And I said, the thing is, I said, the food on the table that we're eating now, how did that get here? All of these things, it's all brought here. Transport is key, yet there doesn't seem to be any grants, any funding, any recognition within colleges, schools, universities. Is there a degree in logistics? So I think recognise the industry for what we do, because it isn't just driving a van. I did my Class 1 licence back in November. A driver had let me down, and I said to the planner, if I had the licence, I'd take the load myself. And I went to bed, and the next morning I thought, I'm going to do this. So I did my Class 1 licence, and I've had to do, for our insurance, I've had to be accompanied for 7 days before they'll insure me to drive by myself. And I've done 6 so far. 5 of those have been great. They've been A to B, whether it's been going to the hub to change over a trailer, moving trailers between Delsol and HFO and I did 1 day out with a driver on multi-drop. Luckily, we only had 1 collection on delivery, but it was shocking. I think we only covered 35 miles. I was driving for 4.5 hours. The places that you're expected to get into, and you've got to process this yourself, which way to go, the low bridge, which way to turn in, where the next collection is, where the pallet is on your trailer. Like, it's really challenging. And I don't think that they're given the credit or the understanding that it isn't just sitting behind a wheel and driving. There is a lot more to it.
It's a very skilled job, and I was having a conversation yesterday about this, and about 1 in 12 people, 8%, either work in the logistics or something very close to the logistics sector. So it's a big part of UK PLC, and it drives UK PLC, because without all the food getting to the supermarkets, the goods getting to you, the pallets, the world would stop pretty quickly. So I really appreciate your views and that, and hopefully someone from the government will listen and take it really seriously, because it is the lifeblood of a UK PLC, and hopefully that will work. But I just want to say thank you very much for your time, Kathy, and I'm sure our viewers and listeners will really enjoy it.
No, thank you very much for having me.